Hello and welcome. My name is Scott Balderson and I am producing this short video series on marketing mastery for therapists, authentically moving beyond the limits of traditional marketing, what they don't teach you in business school. In this short video, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the pitfalls of traditional marketing and how they can be very problematic for private practice therapists, and begin to introduce the idea of the possibility of how to think of private practice marketing in a different way. In this first video, I want to talk about why traditional marketing feels like such a chore to private practice therapists. But first, a little bit about me. I am a private practice therapist in San Francisco. I've been in private practice about 25 years, and I'm also the director of Center for Mindful Psychotherapy. And I'm doing this series because I certainly have had a struggle around marketing in my career as a therapist, and I've certainly witnessed many other therapists have a similar kind of struggle. And I want to talk a little bit about what I've noticed over the years in terms of why it can feel like a struggle, and how traditional marketing isn't necessarily the best fit for private practice therapists, and start to introduce some new ideas on how to think about private practice and marketing it differently in a way that can feel more authentic to you as a private practice therapist. The energy that I used to bring to marketing my private practice was basically avoidance. My standard joke was that if ever I was going to do any marketing, it usually turned into some version of this, which was taking a nap. That's the way that I got to avoid marketing my practice, and the results somewhat reflected that. There was just not a lot of energy being put into it. It didn't feel super authentic, it didn't feel super fun, and so it was just so much easier to take a nap. And then I noticed something. It happened about 12 years ago. I took some time off from my private practice and I did a Native American vision quest. And this vision quest started with a sweat lodge, which is a very intense ceremony, a Native American ceremony. They call it the ceremony of purification. It's a very sacred ceremony, and it's one where you really have to do a lot of preparation. It's very intense, it's very dehydrating, it's extremely hot in a very small enclosed space. And the idea was that we would go into the sweat lodge, we'd be purified, and then we would go on our vision quest for 3 days out on the land. And I remember that experience very vividly. It was one of those kind of experiences that's absolutely a highlight of your life, a highlight of my life in terms of really bringing me in touch with a whole different experience and a whole different way of being. I did my vision quest in the mountains of Colorado. We were about 10,000 feet. It was a very beautiful mountain area with the crisp air of spring. I can still remember coming out of the sweat lodge just feeling so intimately in touch with nature and with life. It was very, very memorable and exciting experience. And then to be on the land for 3 days without food or water was also incredibly intense and yet absolutely magical. And this whole process for this vision quest took about 3 or 4 days of preparation, 3 days on the land, and a final day of integration. So I was really out of touch with my life, my traditional life, and my culture for over a week. And I really wondered what effect this would have on my private practice, on my career, that sort of thing. And what I noticed on this vision quest was when I got back into life and into a traditional way of being, is that my practice had actually had a lot of contact. A lot of folks had actually contacted me and wanted to engage my services. And this was really surprising to me, and it started me asking the question of what was going on. And then I noticed some similar energy when I would go on a meditation retreat. I've done a number of week-long, completely silent meditation retreats where there's absolutely no cell phones, of course, no contact with other participants, just completely within yourself in complete silence. And I noticed a similar energy that when I would come back from these retreats, it feels like my practice had grown. I would get a number of new inquiries from clients. And it started to make me wonder, is there any way what was happening in these experiences could inform my understanding of my marketing and how I market my private practice? And that's a little bit about what I want to just talk about over the series of these webinars. But in this particular video, I just want to talk a little bit more about why traditional marketing feels like such a challenge to therapists. And part of it is that I think that therapists often hold conditioned beliefs about business and marketing. For example, the meme that marketing skills are not skills we have as therapists. That's one I heard a lot in graduate school, and it's one I convinced myself was true, and certainly heard many others talk about. Also, the idea that I'm not good at business. I don't have a mind for business. I'm a therapist, and a business mind is a very different kind of mind, a different kind of energy. These are beliefs that I hear a lot of therapists talking about. Other conditioned beliefs are that marketing can feel salesy, and that it's like I'm trying to get somebody to do something. That marketing is putting myself out there, it's too exposing and too vulnerable. So I'd like to ask you to think about, what are your beliefs on marketing, and is it possible that some of the beliefs or some of the ideas that you have about marketing may be limiting how effective you are and your ability to actually market your practice? Traditional marketing also does not feel very therapeutic. The focus and emphasis is often on self-promotion and survival. The used car salesman can be a classic kind of idea of what it can feel like to be a marketer who's trying to get somebody to do something, trying to get people to, say, buy a used car. And so, yes, there's techniques that communicate information and attempt to try and get clients, which I think is an energy that doesn't feel very therapeutic to many therapists. And also the idea that we have to try and keep clients satisfied and happy is not necessarily a therapeutic quality, because oftentimes, as we know in therapy, clients don't always feel happy, and it's not always a satisfying experience for every session, because a lot of times very difficult memories or experiences come up before clients feel better. So the consequences of having these beliefs and mindsets for therapists are often that your calling is underutilized. Potential clients are denied access to you. I'm aware many of the therapists that I work with come to this profession with a real calling, a real sense of wanting to serve and wanting to share their insight and wisdom with other people, often for their own journeys through life. And it's really unfortunate if that calling is underutilized because people can't find you. Also, you can spend precious energy in doubt and worry. The idea that you're trying to make something happen, and if it's not, it can feel like it can drain a lot of energy as you worry about building your practice. And essentially, having an empty calendar makes you start to doubt your abilities. Even though you may be a really great therapist, if you don't have more full calendar, you can start to question whether or not you're a good therapist or whether or not you've chosen the right profession. And so all of these are great concerns for me as I witness people growing their career as therapists, and when I see these kinds of difficulties, it really is part of the reason I wanted to do this video series. So what I start to wonder then is, how can we move beyond our traditional marketing and our conditioned beliefs? And I love Dan Siegel's model because I think he gives us a great graphic representation of this when he talks about the idea of activated peaks versus the plane of possibility. And when we're operating from an activated peak, we're really at the edge where we can't go any further. We have some conditioned belief that we, in quotes, know is true, and it's very difficult for us to see any other experience. And so there's actually just this rigidity because we become imprisoned by our thought patterns. And then there's reactivity. We get caught up in drama. We get caught in having to try and operate within these rigid thought patterns, and it can often have serious consequences. And so the result is that we're not likely to get outside of our past conditioning as long as we're operating from an activated peak. And in marketing, this can be especially difficult as therapists if we have an activated peak idea, for example, that as therapists we're not good marketers. It can have really difficult consequences. And so some of the other activated peaks that I've seen in terms of beliefs in marketing our therapy services are that marketing is seen as a different skill from therapy, that I'm not good at it, that I don't enjoy it, and that it's not authentic to who I am. So again, just notice if any of these beliefs or memes creep into your consciousness at all, or in any part of how you think about marketing your practice. And so what I'd like to talk about over these next several webinars is, what if there's another possibility? What if we can think outside of the limits of traditional marketing and our conditioned beliefs and fears, coming down off that activated peak and come out of that rigidity of conditioned beliefs and towards a plane of new possibilities. In Dan Siegel's model, when we're on the plane of possibility, we're in a place of great openness where we are able to let in new ideas, new thoughts, new possibilities, and actually able to create a different experience. And so from this new plane of possibility, I start to wonder, like, what if we could market from a place of awareness greater than ourselves? What if we could be open ourselves to receive and help and get guidance from unexpected sources? And what if we could feel powerful in our marketing versus timid and fearful? These questions are really exciting to me, and I think they're very possible in terms of what I've been aware of in how to start to think about marketing differently. And so in an upcoming webinar, I will present a new model for how therapists can think about marketing and business, and how to break out of the limitations and conditioned beliefs of marketing that hold therapists back, and how marketing and business can feel more integrated with your skills as a clinician. So can you start to imagine not being limited by the self-promotion meme or of traditional marketing or the conditioned view of marketing that you may have had in the past, but being engaged in a process of marketing that feels more authentic and mindful? How it might even be possible to look forward to marketing. Wow, what a concept, right? And so in part 2, I'm going to talk about breaking free from struggle to new possibility, a different way to think of marketing for therapists, and why we can actually be great at it. The second part of this series will be a webinar, and you can register for it with the email you receive for this series. Be sure and register, even if you can't attend, and you will get access to the recording. I look forward to seeing you all then.